Music theory with Microsoft Excel. Mode formula comparison and mode relationship tables, this time using Excel to add color for formatting's sake. So get ready and some coffee because you ain't never seen rockin' unless you excel at rockin'. And yeah, you need Microsoft Excel for that. People won't tell you that. People try to hold you down by keeping that info, but here we are in Excel. If you don't have access to this workbook, that's okay because you could just follow along, possibly add in the tables we're currently working on. If you do have access to this table though, 4 tabs down below, including the fretboard tab, having a very colorful fretboard. It's not political though or anything. We've got the example tab having in essence the answer key. The prior presentation tab has the information we worked on in a prior presentation, which we will use to pull into the current presentation. The blank tab is where we started with a blank worksheet but did so in a prior course or section. Basically, this time we want to be adding the added layer of color, another dimension of understanding. Let's go to the fretboard tab to get an idea of our overall objective, that being to maximize the use of color to better understand music theory in general, better navigate the fretboard more specifically, not by just randomly assigning color, but assigning the color wheel to the pitch wheel so that we can have either an absolute color system for all of the notes, being able to actually name the notes, not just by note name, not just by note number, which you should be doing as well, but by a specific color. This is just going to be the yellow-green note. Or we can assign the same color set, similar to a Nashville number system, assigning an absolute number system based on the 7-note collections around the key of C, to the nodes, like the 1 or Ionian node, the 2 or the Dorian node, the 3 or the Phrygian node. And that way, when we move the colors up, the whole shape will move up. So in other words, if I move this shape up to like from a 4 to a 6, which is going to go from C collection of notes to the D collection of notes, it's currently tied to the colors R to the notes. So the A is still red, even though the Ionian node has moved up from the C, which is now like what I would call in the ocean from our planet analogy. It's no longer there, right? It's sunk into the ocean. But we've got the Ionian mode over here. If I bring it back to the 4, then we have our A is red here. What if I want to then use a different color set based on the absolute modes? This one. I'm just going to paint this on here. And we have the same colors, but now if I change this to a 6, the colors have moved up. So now the A is not red, the red is up here, and we have our position 1 here. So although this looks very loud and like almost like it's political or something like that, it's actually, you get used to associating these colors to either an absolute note or an absolute node, like the Nashville number system, assigning a number to them, which can really help visualize, particularly if you combine that with having the low or heavy E string on top. All right, I'm going to bring this back to a 4. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take what we did before and add color to our worksheet in essence as much as we can. And in the prior presentation, what we did is we added 12 colors to each of the notes, having an absolute color system per note. We've done this in prior presentations. So red is A, orange red is the A sharp or B flat, yellow is B. And we also want a different set of colors for the modes. So, I mean, for the distances, which are usually said in intervals. So the interval distances, but we can actually label them with just a color, meaning how many half steps. I'm not getting into related scale degrees with color. We're just saying, what is the distance in our baseline unit of measure from a local distance standpoint? That means you can have 1 to 11 steps away, including 0. That makes 12 actual distances, right? And then we have a different color set. It's similar in nature in that we're trying to equally space all the colors, but we're starting on 15 degrees instead of 0. So you can, again, just see it as the line, the color line, which we really should know. Again, a lot of us have color phobia because of all the politics these days, but we really should know the color spectrum. It's not political. We know the color spectrum. It's okay to know the color spectrum, okay? I know these names are suspect as well. We gave more flamboyant names to the distances, but and these are the normal names, but that helps us to actually identify both modal points or note points as well as distance with different names. And so that's what we did last time. And now this time we want to take that information and basically apply it, adding a new layer. So me as an accountant, my first thought is we should be taking the note system and turning it into a number system. Anybody that deals with any kind of computer engineering or just normal, a plumber would think that, right? I mean, it's just like you have to, because this is ridiculous to have the letters, this sharp and flat business. I'm sorry. No, it's like that's not the optimal way to do it. So that makes sense for most people. We should be adding some kind of note system. Also, we should have a number system for the nodes. That just makes sense, once again, which you can see developing in like the Nashville number system. So that's what I would advocate for as an added tool to better understand music theory. And now I want to dive into the color. So now we want to add the color component. So what we've done here is we've added the numbers to the notes. We've added a number system to the modes, meaning we're going to choose 7 note collections, as we've talked about in prior presentations, and then we've mapped out each of the modes by distance. So we have the Ionian node. We're going to give the formula for each of these modes. So the Ionian, if I go normal distance to the right around the clockwise around the wheel, you get a whole step, which is 2 note distance, 1 note, 2 note, 2 note, 2 note, 1 note. If you start from the Dorian, then you're basically just starting at the 2, right? So now you get a 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. And if you start at the Phrygian, you're basically starting here. So you get a half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Now note that all of this Ionian nodes, we can give a color to those using our absolute color system, attempting to associate color with all of this stuff. I want to see it by color. And all of these are basically distances of either wholes or half steps, which are basically our most common steps that we take because we use them within our formulas. That's why we have 2 names for whole step, half step, which could also be called a minor second and a major second. So it's useful for me to associate color to those steps so we can associate our distance color, whether we want to name it. I don't care what we call it. If you say it's a whole step away, it's 2 notes away, right? You could say it's 2 notes away. You could say it's a whole step away. You could say it's 2 half steps away. If you want to, you could say it's a 2 note away major second. I don't care what you call it. I'm going to give it a color just like we did. I don't care what you call an A sharp, right? I don't care if you call it a B flat. I don't care if you call it an AB. I don't care. I'm just going to give it a number, which is a 2, okay? So, right? And so we're going to do the same thing here. I don't care what you want to call this distance. It's, if you're measuring in rulers, it would be 2 inches away. I'm just going to give it a color that's assigned to 2 inches away, right? That's what that would make it simple. Let's try to make it simple here. Okay, so we can do that. And then down here we have the same thing. Once again, here's all of our modes. Here's the modal number system, and now we're putting the mode numbers. So these are the numbers, or all the points, the modal points for all of the different modes. So in other words, the Ionian is the 1 from a Nashville number system. So if I'm on the Ionian It goes from the Ionian to the Dorian, which is the 2, to the Phrygian, which is a 3, to the Lydian, which is a 4, to the Mixolydian, which is a 5, and so on. If you start on the 2, then you go from the 2, which is the Dorian, which is just starting here, to the 3, which is the Phrygian, the 4 is the Lydian, the 5 is the Mixolydian, the 6 is the Aeolian. And if you start on the 3, then the 3 is the Lydian. So you go from the Lydian to the 4, which to the Lydian to the Mixolydian. Wait, the 3 is the Phrygian to the Lydian to the Mixolydian, and so on. So we can number these with our absolute color system. This whole thing could be color coded, which is going to be really loud, and you're going to think, oh my goodness, it looks like you made a flag, and now you're going to put it into a video game or something. No, it's not. We might put it into a video game because it's legitimate use of color. It has purpose. It has a purpose. But then down here, we could do the same thing, right? We could say this is going to be our absolute colors for the modes, and then these are going to be our colors once again for all the points in the modes using an absolute color system. So we're just going to practice our colors and see how we can see everything with the help and use of the colors. So this is what we did before. Let's add to this worksheet, right? So what I want to do is I want to add the dots, because we're missing the dots here. So I also want to see the even and odds and the dots versus the squares. So I'm going to insert. So I'm going to put my cursor on the C and then column, and then right click and insert. And I'm going to go to my prior worksheet over here, and I've got this shape area. I'm going to take these shapes. I'm just going to copy that over here. I know I'm doing some copy and pasting, kind of cheating that way. I'm going to paste it here. Right, undo. Paste it here. What happened? Que paso? Undo. Oh, there, right there. It has to be right there. Okay, so then we have these. So now we've got our shapes. That helps me with the even and odd numbers. I want to add that then to here. So I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to say and, tying that into this here. So I'd like to add everything we need to know about our note. I'd like to call it a note number 1, but I need to keep the note letter, and then I want the note shape as well, so that I can have all of those in line. So I'll just copy that down to here, and then it repeats down there. So I'm going to make this a little wider. Okay, so there's that. And then I want to add the colors. So I'm going to add 2 columns here so I can add the colors. So I'm going to go to these 2, right click and insert. I added 3 columns. I'm going to right click and delete this one. And then I'm going to go back to my prior one. And these are the hex colors. So right now I really only need these middle colors. So I'm going to pick these which are in the middle range. I'm not so worried about the octaves yet. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'll put that here. What did I copy then? It's for some reason right here, because it's the top. There's an added column. So we'll put it right there. I'll select those 2. I'll double click, and there we have that one. All right. Okay, so now here what we have are the nodes. So notice our color system is based on the absolute notes. But I also want a color system that's based on the absolute modes, like a Nashville number system, the 1 through 7, to have a permanent color system. All right. So that means I don't care which collection of 7 notes, which of the 12 collections of 7 notes. I'm not going to change the colors based on the notes. I'm going to keep the color the same. So what's the color set that we should use then? I'm going to use the one based on the C major. Now, again, this is a decision that we have to make somehow, because this is where it gets wonky again, because you could say, hey, look, if we're starting the alphabet on A, why don't I make these absolute color sets that we will use based on the start of the spectrum, so I can visualize it from the start of the spectrum through towards the end. And the reason is because normally we're going to be working in the key of C oftentimes. So it's more likely that, like, when I go back and forth between working in notes and working with color, it makes sense to go from the key of C. So even though the colors are being measured from the spectrum starting on A, because remember, this is the middle of the piano that where our spectrum is starting at for these middle colors that aren't going to be lightness factor higher or lower. But instead of starting at C4, which didn't make sense, right? We started at A, because that's where we usually would measure, just if we didn't have the baggage of the piano. But when we do if I want a permanent system for the nodes, we usually pick the majors. We list the Ionian first, so we pick the major scale, and we work in most the key of C. And we kind of have to, because that's where you don't have the sharps and flats, which is practical because of the tools that we have. Meaning, I have a double check that everything is correct because I don't have any sharps and flats when I work in the key of C. As an accountant, that's useful. So therefore, I'm going to use the color set, applying the formula based off the key of C. So we're starting on this yellow green. So I'm just going to format paint this yellow green. So this yellow green, by the way, if you want to do this yourself, the formatting is right here. It's this number. So we're just going to take that number, and if you go into like the color formatting here, and then you go into the custom color formatting, you just put that number right there, and you get the number. Okay, so but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to format paint this here. I'm just going to format paint that, and I'll put that to the Ionian node. The 1 is the mode, and the Roman numeral, that's good too, and the abbreviated. So this is the Ionians, the full Greek name. A lot of people don't like the Greek name because they just don't know Greek. They don't, but they like to just call it the 1. That's what the Nashville number system does. You can call it a Roman numeral 1. For some reason, we like the Romans more than the Greeks because we're like, oh, I'm cool with the Roman numeral 1, but I don't like saying Ionian. But we can give it an abbreviated small I, and that will be the Greek name abbreviation, right? And then we're gonna say, okay, so then if I apply the formula, it goes C whole step to D C whole half, right? Whole half. So we're just applying that formula, which results, of course, in all the notes that don't have sharps and flats in it. So the Dorian's going to be the D. The fact that they have a D here and a D for the D note is a coincidence. That's, just to point that out. But that's going to be then the spring green. So from a permanent standpoint, the Dorian's going to be spring green when we're looking at it from the perspective of absolute modal color system. And then the Phrygian is going to be sky blue. Sky blue is Phrygian. And then Lydian is going to be normal, just blue. Just blue. I like that one. That one, it doesn't even sound like it's political, almost. That sounds almost normal. That sounds almost normal. Let's just stick with blue. Let's just not move. Oh no, now we went to magenta. So it's gonna be magenta. I'm a little suspect. Something funny's happening here. And then we're gonna go to the A. And then A. No, magenta is a legitimate color. Why don't you just call it pink? Why don't you just call it pink? Because that ChatGTP told me that it was magenta. Okay, and I don't want to look stupid and call it the wrong name. And then the B is going to be yellow for Locrian is going to be yellow. Okay, so there we have it. So those are going to be the absolute system for our colors. I won't do them down here because I'm going to do formatting. I'm going to do formatting so that we can copy it over with conditional formatting and try to match it so that looks correct. Okay, so next, so that's going to be the colors we have for the points, not note points, but the points by modal point, the modal point, Nashville number point. But we also want the distances. So I'm going to add the distances into this worksheet because this whole bit up here is really working in distances. So let's go ahead and add some cells. So I'm going to put my cursor on the 0. I'm going to go from 0 to like W, right click and insert some cells. They're all skinny. I'm going to put my cursor in here and make some wider cells. Maybe I need a couple more. I'm going to insert a couple more just so I have room. I don't want to delete anything. And then I'm going to go over here and we're going to say, let's pull this whole bit. note distance. Let's pull this whole thing. And this is going to be the colors, a separate color system for distance, which usually are intervals, right? So I'm going to paste that here. Oh man, something happened. Let's go back on over here because this is a formula. I don't even need these. These are the HLS system. I don't need those. Let's just delete this. Delete. Okay. And then what happened over here? Now these colors, I used conditional formatting for these colors instead of an absolute color system. Oh, that's annoying. So I'm gonna have to go in here and fix that. So I went into here. Let's clear the rules. I'm just gonna clear the rules. Now you can't see them right now because they're black. So let's make so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go in here and I'm going to reassign all of these colors. So I'm just gonna double click on it. I'm gonna copy it, and I'm just gonna do them one at a time, not with conditional formatting, but over here I'm just gonna go boom, and then here assign the color and then boom, and then I'll make this color white. All right, maybe I should do that let's do it here. Let's do this. We'll say copy, and then I'll go boom, 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 and then here copy, chartreuse, and then I'm gonna say conditional format that, bam, custom. It needs to be that color, which is chartreuse yellow, and this is lime spike. Lime spike? Seriously? Seriously? Am I playing some weird video game or something? This is crazy. Okay. I know the colors get a little... Okay, now what happened? I'm going to double click in here. This is going to be here, 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 boom, boom. All right, and then we've got a distance of 4 is mint or mint blaze. Mint blaze? Seriously, dude? Okay, and then aqua mint. These look pretty similar, but they're different. Aqua mint is going to be 5 steps away. 5 steps away. And then electric sky. Electric sky. That's the color. What does that even mean? What does that even mean, man? Electric sky. I don't know. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. I'm going to go. This one's going to be 7 away. Is deep azure. 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 I feel like that's blue. Okay, we're going to stick with these colors. I still feel like I should have negotiated. I should have negotiated with ChatGTP. I just let ChatGTP do just give me the colors. It's like having a faculty meeting with a bunch of crazy people and just letting them do whatever they want. It's ridiculous. That was a bad idea. I got to go in there ready for war. Oh god. All right, crimson 11 steps away for crimson. Okay. So there's the colors. So now we have a distance of 1 through 11 from a local distance standpoint, which is 12 distances if we count the one that we're on as distance 0. And then we have over here okay, so now what I want to do, I want to put these in a vertical fashion. So remember, these are the local distances, and they're going to be absolute distances. But now I'm going to say, okay, what if I went a step beyond this distance? I went 12 away, meaning I went another octave up. Well, that would be like staying on the same spot. It would still be orange flame, but it would be orange flame plus 12, right? Which would get us to a distance of 12 notes away, right? 12 notes away will be an octave away. I'm going to stop saying right. So I'm going to say, I'm going to cut this one. I'm going to pull these and I'm going to cut that and I'm going to put those down here. So in other words, when I pass the local distance, let's make the local distance, I'm just going to make this orange. These colors don't mean anything except that I'm just going to make that orange as the middle part because I'm going to go above and below it. So then when I go below it, so now we're going, wait a sec, that's the wrong way. Hold on a second. Let me cut this and put it back, put that back where it was. We're going to go up. So we're going to cut this one. So we're going up even though we're going down this way. Down towards the floor on the guitar is up. So I cut that, paste it here, and then we're going to say that we're going from 11 to, this is going to be this plus 1, let's say. So now we're on 12, a distance of 12, boom, 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 down to here. So if I take a distance of 12, I'm going an octave up. The names are going to be the same because I'm going to say this is going to be same orange flame down to here. So we'll copy that down. All the names are the same, but it's going to be a shade lighter, lightness factor, a shade lighter lightness factor. I wonder if I can format paint all of these to here. And so there we have that. And then I can format paint these to here. So now these have a higher lightness factor. All right. And then I do have so that's going to be those. Okay. So then if I keep going, let's make this a blue. This color doesn't mean anything other than I'm going to stagger the next octave distance. I'm going to say this is the next octave distance standard right there. Ba-boom, ba-boom. And let's put some borders around it. All right. And then let's go, if I go 2 octaves higher, I'm going to go to here. So I'm going to cut that, paste it here. And so if I go this plus 1 again, if I go 24 steps up, I've gone 2 octaves up. It's still going to be orange flame. Orange flame. But it's going to be 2 octaves up. I'm going to put this chat. I can't even say these names, for crying out loud. What are you doing to me? Okay, let's make this green. They're perfectly fine names. I don't know what your problem is. I'm going to say this is going to be here down to here. All right, and then we'll cut these and paste those here. Okay. So then I'm gonna I'm gonna do the same thing above it, because above it is going to be lower in pitch. So, and which often gets a little bit more confusing because we have to start at distance 0. So we think about going right to the note number line to the right, or around the clock in a clockwise direction. Now we're going to go the other way. So I'm going to select all of these maybe, and then insert, right click and insert, and shift the cells down. So let's say we go, okay, now I'm going to format paint from here. I'm just going to grab that cell, format paint it, because it shouldn't be black. What is that? It's not right. All right. So now we're going to go up the other way. So if I go, it's going to be 1 minus 1. So now we're going a half step down or counterclockwise. And so I'm going to, what I'll do, let's copy this. So that's going to be, so if I went 1 down, that's going to be like the local distance would be like going 11 up, because 1 minus 12 is 11. So I'm going to end up with the crimson up top. So if I cut, let's do it this way. I'll show you. If I cut this, and then I don't know how far, well, I don't know how far to go. Let's drag it. I'm going to put it there and I'm going to drag it. Let's drag it up. That's a better method. And then we'll drag it right there. Oh, why does it do that? I don't have any circle references. I do not have any circle references. Why does it think I have a circle reference? I should be okay. Okay, so then, so this is still going to be then crimson. So this is going to be crimson now. And then I'm going to copy that up, but it's going to be an octave down. So let's pull that up. Let's format paint these and put that here. Format paint that down, throw it down right there, throwing it down. Okay, so that means like if I went one step back, that would be kind of like, it would be like going local distance would be 11 forward minus 12, which would be one step back. So we're always thinking of kind of like the local distance as though we're going basically clockwise, right? But now we're going, but the absolute distance is one note back. So I'm going to say, all right, then let's say this is going to be this minus 1. That gives me 2 back. And then we'll copy that up. And there we have it. So now we have the same colors or the same names, but they're a shade darker for the going in the opposite direction. It would be the same as going 11 up, but 11 up minus 12, an octave lower, right? And so now I'm going to copy this and do it one more time. Let's drag it again. Dragging, we decided, was the better method because I don't know how many there are. Why? Why are you... I do not have any... I'm going to have to look into that. I don't know why it's saying that. Okay. And then we're going to go here. All right, so this is going to be, once again, let's make this blue. So we'll make this blue. This blue doesn't mean anything other than we're altering the colors so we can see the pattern. And then we're going to say this is going to be equal to the crimson. So now we went crimson, and then we'll copy that up. And then we'll just copy this. I'll take this formatting and paste it down there. Bam. And then we're going to say this is going to be equal to the 12 minus 1. Gives us 13, negative 13. So if I go negative 13, we're going to be back on the crimson because that would be kind of like going up 11 minus 24, right? Minus 24, minus 12 would get us to 1, minus another 12 would get us to negative 13. So that's why the local distance is kind of here. Okay, so let's copy that up. I'm going to copy that up, and then I'm going to make these green. This green doesn't mean anything other than we're kind of alternating between. So we're going to make it that green. So now we've got the orange in the middle on this side for the local distance, which are at 0.5 lightness. And then when we go up, we're going to go up. This is the absolute distance, which has the same names, but they're an octave higher. All of these would be the same, same destination locations, but plus 12, right? And then all of these are 2 octave higher. And then these is the local distance. These are all, I end up on the same note, but these are going to be an octave lower, right? And then these are 2 octaves lower. Let me add a column for the local distance so we can see that. Or let me delete, there's some stuff. We don't need all this space here. Let's get rid of this. This is not useful. I'm just going to select that bit, right click, delete it, and shift the cells up. Por favor. And then we're going to say, let's get rid of this stuff. I'm going to get rid of the title, the headers. Get rid of that. Right click, delete. Adios. Okay, what's with the Spanish? I'm practicing Spanish. I practice everything, all this stuff at the same time. I'm going to insert. We're doing, all right. And then I'm going to take, then I'm going to go down here and just do the local distance. So, which would be 0. So if I went forward, the local distance would be the same. I'm going to call this plus 1. And I'm going to call this just local distance. Local distance. And this will be absolute distance. Did I name those properly? Where's my spell checker? Darn right I did. I'm getting better. See? I can spell it even. I'm learning to spell. I'm learning all kinds of stuff. Okay. This plus this. All right. So now the local distance here is going to be, wait a sec. No, the local distance here is going to be equal to 1, equal to 0. Yeah. So that means if I go an octave up, the local distance is 0. 0 plus 12 gets us to 12. The local distance here, if I go a distance of 13, 13 minus 12 is 1. The local distance here, if I go up 14, 14 minus 12 is 2. Local distance is 2. Local distance here, 15, 15 minus 12 is like 5 minus 2, which is 3, and so on. Boom. So there's the local distance. Now if I go up 24, the local distance once again is 0, because that would be like I stayed on the same note, but I went up 2 octaves. So from a circle standpoint, I'm in the same spot. I ran around the clock twice, but from a note number line distance, I went 24 steps up. From a spiral staircase distance, I'm higher up on the staircase, but I'm right above the point I started at, right? And then if I go the other way, the local distance, if I go 1/2 step backwards or to the left on the piano, then that would actually be like as though I went, this is a little more confusing to conceptualize for most people, right? If I went 11 steps forward and then I subtracted 12, or I went 11 steps down the spiral staircase, right? Then I'd be like equivalent to going 1 step, a negative 1 step, right? So that's, again, it's a little bit wonkier to see. I mean, you can think of it as going up 11 minus 12, which gets us to 1, right? And this would be, and so if I went backwards or to the left 2, that would be kind of like I went normal distance clockwise 10 minus 12 gets me a negative 2, right? And a distance of negative 3 steps would be like I went forward or clockwise 9 minus 12 gets me to a negative 3, right? So that's kind of like the idea there. And if I copy that up, boom, we have that. And then again, similarly, we can go 2 down, boom. And so there we have that. So this is just the raw data, because like I say, what do you want to call those distances? You can call this a whole step. I mean, a half step. You can call that 2 half steps. You can call it a whole step. You can call it a 2 note away major second, right? I don't care. But just from a raw standpoint, it means you went up 3 notes. You went up 3 notes. And so these are the absolute distances, and these are the local distances. So that means whatever, I don't care what you call it, if you go up 3 notes, I'm going to give it a lime spike, a lime color. It's going to be a lime color, right? Whatever, I don't care if you call it 3 note away major third, or just 3 half steps, or like a whole step and a half step, or 3 half steps, or a half step and 2 half, whatever. I don't know. I'm just going to give it one color for the distance for the baseline unit in equivalent to inches for our analogy, 3 half steps. That's what it's going to be, okay? None of this weird naming. Don't try to confuse me with these stupid names that aren't giving me any added information, okay? I've had enough. I've had enough with these word games, man. I'm going to say home tab, font group. Let's format paint it. We're just getting down to what we need to know to get stuff done. Okay? Let's hide these right here. Let's hide these. All right. So now we're going to use that next time to format this stuff, which is going to get crazy color coded. But the colors are coded so that we know the distance, right? That's the point. And it's going to be actually highly useful, although painful to the eye, a little bright, but we'll continue with that next time.